a certain man went down from Jericho to Jerusalem, fell among the thieves, who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a certain priest came down that road. When he saw him, he passed by one on the other side. Likewise a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring an oil and wine, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And of course, going down from Jerusalem meaning leaving the house of God, leaving heavens, leaving the heavenly place, leaving the church and its people. Going down to Jericho, where the world is. And while he's going down, all through the road, he was attacked by thieves. They wounded him, and they left him between dead and alive. And that's what sin does. It leaves us throughout the road and really leaves us between death and living. If you ask a person who is so immersed in sin, you don't know if he is living or dead. As John in Revelation said, you have a name that as if you are alive, but you are dead. And this man, who is in a parable, means a guy that is dead with sin. So, two people passed by him in the beginning. The first one was a priest, and the second was a Levite. Both of them are official workers in the temple. Their work was supposed to give mercy to that Jewish man who is really wounded between death and living. However, neither of them, although that's their task, that's their official rank, neither of them cared to really help that wounded guy. However, there was a third guy. And before we get to him, let me just add this. The commandment by itself cannot help the wounded, the sinful. The Old Testament commandment, represented by the priest and the Levite, stands without reaching to help the wounded, the sinful. It can only tell him you are wounded, you are going to die in your sin, but cannot give him revival. It can tell him you have killed, you have sinned, you have committed adultery, but it doesn't show him the way back, the U-turn. Until a Samaritan man was walking by. And the tradition says that the Samaritans and the Jews are considered enemies. The Jews look down to the Samaritans. The Samaritans do not deal with the Jews. However, in that occasion, the Samaritan was considered our Lord Jesus Christ, who actually is considered is the enemy to some, but for everybody, he is the neighbor. So he came where the wounded man is, and he bandaged his wounds and put first aid stuff, the oil, and he cleansed his wounds, and then he put him on his donkey and took him to the hotel, hospital, church. As St. Augustine said, the church should be a hospital where everyone is sick with variable types of sicknesses. The church should not be a court of law where everybody is charging the other one with a different type of wage. If we are truly in a hospital, then you and I have sicknesses who are due to different diseases, but we all need cure, and we are all coming to the church to get the cure. However, if you are in a court, everybody is charging the other with an accusation. So this Samaritan man comes, take care of the wounded, who is supposed to be his enemy, who didn't have any type of official rank to help him, but he was merciful. He has kindness. He had compassion on him. And that's what our Lord is. Put him on his donkey, took him to the church, and asked the person in charge of the hotel, which in that occasion could be represented by the priest or the pastor or the servant or anyone in charge, take care of my friend. And left him with 2 denarii, symbolic for the 2 commandments, love God, love your neighbor, or the Old Testament and the New Testament. He left him with the 2 denarii and told them, at the last day, when I come back, and my next coming, I will pay you for anything you have taken care of the wounded by. Meaning, whatever we do to take care of the wounded and the sinful and the broken-hearted and the poor and the needy, God will repay us back when He comes back in His second coming. So, the Samaritan here is our Lord Jesus Christ. The wounded is every one of us. The Levite and the priest are the ones who are only waiting for a commandment, and they are legalistic. But our Lord is a Lord of mercy. He's a Lord who gives mercy and compassion before He charges, accuses, or points fingers. Our Lord here is willing to take care of the wounded and take him to the hospital, where the hospital is the church. Now you and I need to also be the Good Samaritan. You and I need to look for the wounded, and rather than accuse him or judge him, carry him, take him to the church, because we will be repaid back in His second coming. If we stop at becoming legalistic, we will not have compassion, we will not in return get compassion. But if we give mercy and compassion, in return, He will have mercy on us and He will be compassionate on us. The justification here is really that our Lord looks at everyone as His neighbor. Regardless of the gender, regardless of his countryman or not, regardless of the color, regardless of the ethnicity, everyone is my neighbor. And everyone, in the eyes of Christ, need to be cared for. And the more you care for, the more you will be rewarded. The more you take him to the church and let the church embrace him, you will be rewarded as well. And look at the function of the church here. The church accepts any wounded, regardless of type of wound and where and why he was wounded. No judgment, but readiness to take care of this, because by the church taking care of the wounded, it's doing her part in the eyes of God. This is the Good Samaritan, and this is the parable that we learn a lot from. Not to become legalistic, but to have compassion on others, so we may have compassion on ourselves by our Lord.